guys know aloha means hello and goodbye. Mahalo, it means thank you. I didn't know. I thought, in some weird way, I thought mahalo was almost like interchangeable. It is not.
I thought Mahalo was just a defunct company by Jason Calcamin.
It is definitely also that. Sick burn. But anyway, I learned that because...
That was for the crew. I did that. That was for you guys.
It was nice. I learned that little fact because I was in Hawaii this week with the gang over at Hawaii 5-0. And more on that next week, or you can tune to another channel. Do not tune to another channel. Every time I will take that opportunity. Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am not Chat Show. No, I am Samm Levine, the notorious kick in the side. But Kevin was not lying last week when he said he was done with the Chat Show until 2017. But that don't mean Chat Show's done with you. No siree. We are here, and we will be here this week and next week, and then we'll see you in 2017. But oh, have we got a good one for you today. But before we get to that, I just want to say hello to Jamie Foxx and Corey Levin. Hello.
Yeah.
Wow, so enthusiastic.
Oh, fine.
I'm very excited today.
I just wanted more vagrants to come in the theater before we started the show.
We've had an interesting morning.
An influx.
Yeah. You guys having a good week?
I'm getting a lot of holiday preparation done, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know. I feel like I'm a little ahead of the game, so I feel good.
Well done.
Yeah.
And Corey, how are the other bridge trolls?
Thank you.
Sick burn, bro.
Yeah, I'll be here most of the rest of the afternoon.
Okay, terrific. All right, well, I certainly have nothing else to add, so unless there was any other pressing new business, I'm going to get right down to this because ho, am I excited. Okay. Well, you may not recognize my guest from his face alone. I have zero doubts that you've heard his voice many, many, many times. He is one of the most gifted, well-known, and prolific voice actors working today, with over 300 credits on his IMDb resume, and what I'm sure are dozens more not listed, and no signs of slowing down. It's nothing short of a miracle he found the time to come chat with me today, and I'm eternally grateful. This is not a word I get to use too often in describing someone, but please help me welcome to the chat show the legendary voice artist, Maurice LaMarche. Perfect. An ad for Apple.
They don't recognize me, but they recognize the voice. The 2016 Lexus GS, once driven, there's no going back.
We know a remote farm where Mrs. Buckley lives. Every July, peas grow there. You really mean that? All right.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
I would have let you
see if
if
you could have seen my face, it would have thrown it because you're going. He looks a little bit like a younger Joseph Bologna or maybe Alfred Molina without the hair dye, but you know, I don't really recognize the face.
I think everyone always forgets about the Alfred Molina, Joe Bologna baby.
I had a job once. I was Howie Mandel's, announcer. I was going to say as Ed McMahon, but they just stuck me in the booth and said, "Stay there."
Okay.
So I'm in the booth, and Alfred Molina's on the show. Oh. But they show us still, he was doing this play, and he was doing it with Alan Alda and Victor Garber, and he's like three-quarter turned away from the camera, yelling at Alan Alda and Victor Garber in a jacket that I also own. Oh. And I look at it and go, how the hell did I get in that jacket? How did they put me with Alan Alda and Victor Garber? I mean, he looked exactly like me.
Yeah.
It was insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
I loved you in art.
Thank you.
I think that was the name of that
Thank
play.
you very much. I loved me in chocolat because free food.
And and Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
And
Wallop and Web Snappers. And that's the first voice actor I ever met, by the way. The original Spider-Man from the 67, 68 Spider-Man. Mm. I met him when I was about 19 years old, and his name was Paul Soles, still is Paul Soles, and I was doing an industrial show with him, and I didn't read this, like halfway through I said, "So you were Spider-Man? Would you do Spider-Man?" And he said, he's this older guy, and he goes, walloping web snappers. And I just melted. And so whenever I go to like a Comic-Con or something like that, where I meet, younger people who ask me to do the voice, and I see them kind of have that reaction, I go, I know what you do. I know how you feel. I met Spider-Man. He was my first cartoon. I never got to meet Mel Blanc, but to meet Spider-Man was just almost as good. Okay, enough of that.
No, please. I mean, in this show, we're going to jump all over the place, and since
I'm good at that.
Since you said Mel Blanc,
yes,
let's start there. The man of 1,000 voices, Mel Blanc.
Yes.
You and I have talked about this in our own real lives.
Yes, we have.
That you said Mel was a heavy influence on you and playing with voices and being a kid and listening and trying to stretch your own vocal
Bugs Bunny
range.
cartoons. I was always a Warner Brothers cartoon kid. I was never, even though I work for them now and I love your cartoons, Mr. Disney. I'm talking to a man whose head is upside down in liquid nitrogen. I don't know, he can't hear me. But I loved the Warner Brothers cartoons, and when I just found out, Rob Paulson and I both talked about this, that all those voices, except for Elmer Fudd, emanated from one guy.
Right.
It was astounding to me.
Yeah.
And I would walk around doing those voices. I mean, I would go to school going, I'm like in kindergarten, walking to school, and I go the whole way playing the vulture, and they wanted to know what was wrong with me. I mean, I got sent to school psychologist because I just kept trying stuff. I loved watching cartoons, and that stuff made me happy, and I wanted to make other people happy. And I'm only 5, and this is how I've got it figured out. Make people happy by doing what makes me happy. So I walk around doing silly voices, and but I was fascinated by Mel as I went along. I experimented with different vocal tensions, and I think that's how I discovered I could do just impressions generally, which is where I started.
Right. And so when you say experimenting with vocal tensions, we still talking you as a 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old?
All the way through. I never stopped doing voices. I was always fascinated by the ability to change the voice. And I think, it's a wacky theory, but I believe that we were all born sponges. And they say, if you want to teach a child language, just talk it around them. And if there's 2 native speakers of 2 different languages in the home, have one, the father may say speak Spanish, and the mother belch as much as possible. Thank you for the pizza, by the way. That was, yes, it's true.
Well, I'm well aware.
I can get away with that. And it's the season for it, too. The residual checks are going to start coming in about March for all the streaming
all
of
the Elf.
Yeah, which we'll get to later.
Yes, we will.
But and then if the mother speaks English, speak both languages in the house, because we have this marvelous brain that has a language center in it and teaches us, the sounds like languages that have a like a rolled trilled R. Yeah, and if you don't learn it when you're a kid, you can't do it as an adult. Like my wife cannot trill her R's to save her life, neither in the front nor in the back, because she was never taught another language. I at least spent time around French. So
that's right.
Yeah, so I can trill. I can do the backwards. I can do it all because I imitated everything. And my belief, and the reason I'm going into this is, I just never let that part of my brain die. I just kept exercising it. I think it has to do with that language center of the brain, and just experimenting with sounds and words, and I just kept making different sounds, and so I never ever let it relax.
See, I guess that's where a parent would, hey, quit fucking
doing
around.
That, your voice will stay that way.
Yeah, quit messing around, do your homework.
Exactly.
And you just went, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do my homework, boss.
So we have young Mo.
Young Maurice.
Young Maurice living...
Maury, they called me back then.
Did they
I
call
was
you
a
Maury?
Maury as a child, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mo didn't come along until I got into comedy, and a guy named Steve Brinder, whose dad was Maurice, started calling me Mo because his dad was Mo, and then Howie Mandel brought the Mo out here, and when I came out here, he just introduced me to everybody as Mo, and before I knew it, I was Mo.
Oh.
Yeah. I never liked it, but,
but
I'm stuck with it now.
But it really stuck.
Yeah, but so little Maurice is walking around doing voices, they're trying to figure out what's wrong with him.
In Ontario, in Canada, let's be honest, this is...
It's a more conservative society.
I know.
It's got very liberal
political values and societal values, but at one-on-one, people there are much more conservative. I remember the first time I came back from a trip to like I moved down here about a year, and I kind of got into the California lifestyle. It was the 80s, but I bought myself a white Panama hat on Venice Beach.
Sure.
I landed at Toronto International Airport, and I could feel as I came out from customs, all the Canadians looking at me like, who do you think you are to wear a Panama hat? You know, it's just a very, very conservative society. People dress a little bit more quietly. A lot of Cosby sweaters, even now in the 21st century. Cosby sweaters with a crisp shirt underneath and perfect hair.
Oh dear. Yes. I feel like
I dressed Canadian for the show today.
we should take that term back, Cosby sweater. It should mean something terrible now, right?
Yeah, I know. No, it's sort of ruined.
He's got a Twitter account with 4 million followers.
So hey, Trump has 5 times that.
I know, but it's like I'm amazed more people didn't kind of unfollow.
I think they forget. I think it's the elderly, and they log in once they follow all the people from their generation, and they forget. Okay. That's the only excuse.
We're going to leave Cosby alone. It's
yeah,
still
no, we don't
soon.
need to. The low-hanging fruit. We don't need that here.
No. Whoa.
So you're in Canada, in Ontario.
Yes.
And I know you're doing voices, but that leads to impressions.
Yeah.
And you just start doing impressions of pretty much everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the schoolyard, and when my voice broke was when I really started getting kind of good at it, where I could fool people. And I know I made a joke before we went on that if Kevin were here, I was going to try and lead him into a Falk off. But the very first impression I ever did was Peter Falk. Was Columbo. It was like 1971 or 2, junior high, and this teacher of mine, Mr. Fraser, who I'm still in touch with, and he's doing this Columbo impression. He's got a trench coat on. It's cold out. It's Canada, and there's like 3 or 4 my female classmates around him, and he's trying to crack them up with this impression. And I don't know, I was jealous, and I wanted the girls' attention, and all of a sudden I dipped one shoulder down. I made this eye do this. Excuse me, Mr. Fraser, sir, I'm sorry to bother you, but there's been a murder here. You're murdering a Peter Falk impression. and I didn't know where it came from. I had this like, what the hell just happened? Can I say fuck?
Absolutely.
What the fuck just happened? I mean, that's better than anything I've ever done before. Better than any ba-doop, ba-doop, ba-doop. It was like, it was real. It sounded good. And and the girls' mouths were agape, or agape, and it was amazing. It was an amazing feeling because they laughed, he laughed, I didn't get in trouble, and I thought, well, who else can I do? And then that weekend I'm watching this new show starring the future James Bond, Roger Moore, and Tony Curtis, called The Persuaders. And all of a sudden I'm watching it, and I find I can do Tony Curtis. I don't know how, but I'm channeling him. And it was wonderful. It was marvelous. It really was. And just voices started coming right around the age of like 14 years old after my voice broke. I just kept trying things and could do them. One day at school, we just compiled a list, and I had like 30 voices. Like in the 7th or 8th grade. Like 30 voices that I could do. There's no way to turn that into a living, but you know, I'll just be the guy.
I certainly will. I want you to know this text just in from Kevin Pollak. Tell him that's a great all caps Falk. Great.
Thank you, Kevin.
As literally the only other person I know who does Peter Falk.
Kevin does an amazing Falk. I love Kevin's. I love your Falk. and I will not. I will never tell you to Falk off, Kevin. I love you too much for that.
I'm gonna ask the two of you to quit Falking around.
All right. Whoa! I tell you. Hey. Isn't that something?
that is something.
I'm gonna have you on my Simchas Torah special. That'll be marvelous, Sam. So we're doing that. I'm jazzed that Kevin's watching.
He is watching from the Garden State.
Fantastic.
We miss you. We love you.
Yeah, we do.
So
my son's in the Garden State, but he's slipped down to Philadelphia. He's at the Eagles Redskins game right now.
Well, let's have the two of them high five somewhere in Paramus.
Yes.
Yeah, why not?
Always That's a comedy word. Paramus.
Yeah. I think Kevin's near like a Westfield. He keeps talking about like I'm going to go to the Westfield in Paramus, and I'm like, okay,
you should.
do that.
Yeah, it's a good one. So you're a teenager. You've got 30+ voices.
I get to high school and I'm dragged kicking and screaming to the auditions for the variety show. We called it Variety Night, and because it happened at night. And I don't have any material, and these three guys, Harry Van Bommel, Steve Barton, and Stoney Cadell, write me this 5-minute act where I'm just celebrities as waiters. And it really was actually a very clever thing, and I kept some variation of it in my act all through my stand-up comedy career. I mean, I added to it, subtracted to it. And I got a standing ovation at the Variety Night, both nights. Because, you know, when you're a parent in the 1970s, you see that some kid is going to do stand-up comedy, you go, oh, the poor kid. He's going to go out there and he's going to try and be, you know, on the Ed Sullivan Show, or this is going to suck, it's going to be awful, and you're dreading for him. So if you're even half decent, which I was, I strive for half decency.
That's
at all times in my work.
That's my goal.
I set the bar really high.
Really high.
Right, really high. There. And so, you know, they were like, I think it was more like relief. Oh, he didn't die. He didn't screw the pooch up there. You know, with Peter Falk. You see that man in the back? Give him a knife. Anyway.
So I'm not asking you to do them. Can you name at least one or two of the celebrities that you were doing as waiters?
I did Johnny Carson. Good evening, and welcome to Chateau Maine, where the specialty of the house is smoked salmonella. Carson, there was the Falk thing, and I think the actual punchline, it was, you see that man in the back, he wants a knife. That was the joke.
That was
like,
the joke. Got it.
Mixing up the syntax. I'm trying to remember anybody else from that shtick.
It's okay if you can't, because Kevin has just asked me to tell you to settle down. And as he is wont to do.
Yes, I will. I will.
So obviously the leap from killing.
Like a 5-minute thing at a high school variety show.
The leap from that to, hey, maybe I should be doing this, you know, on a real stage, doing stand-up.
Still didn't come to me until I found out there was a place in Toronto called Yuck Yucks.
Okay.
Yuck Yucks Comedy Club. And then I thought, well, maybe I could do this while I'm doing other things. And I had a job. I cleaned a bakery after school. I sold shirts and ties at a good men's store. I scheduled pool deliveries.
Ooh.
And then I got a job as a production assistant at the local TV station, Channel 5. And off of that, because the station manager had seen me in the variety show, he gave me that job, and he also said, in a couple of months, you're going to host a local variety show for high school students. And so I had this on-camera gig, and you know, it was just me sitting in front of a black background, looking into a camera, going, "From Vanier High School, we have so and so." You know,
sure.
But one of the kids that was on the show in the second season, a 15-year-old guy, and if you go to his website now, you can see it, is a young man named Jim Carrey.
Oh.
And you can see his first stand-up and me introducing him with my big helmet hair on his website.
Oh, thank you, Casey.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. It was great. So I start doing that show, and then I go down, a friend of mine dares me to go down to Philadelphia and audition for the Mike Douglas show. And she gets me the audition. She, like, it was like all on a bet, like, you can't do that. You know, she's working in a grocery store. But she bugged the crap out of the guy at the Mike Douglas show until he said, all right, if you'll come down, we'll take a look at you on a Saturday. And I came into the office and I did my 5-minute waiter bit.
Yeah.
He said, you know what, you have something, but you don't have, you need more seasoning. Go to comedy clubs, go to, you know, and so I played a place in Philadelphia that night, open mic night. I did the Improv the following month, and it was just, you know, from there I just got, you know, to doing it more and more and more, and building my act and working with guys, fellow writer guys, and so I'm working locally in Toronto, and that's where I met Jim and I met Howie Mandel and you know, but I was at the opening night of the club, you know. I was like the first guy, and then
got an in.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, but no, I remember Howie's first night. I remember Jim's first night. Just, you know, and to look at those guys, they did have a little something special. even on that first night.
Sure.
You know, you go, all right, they're kissed with that extra drop of ding.
Yeah.
You know, like a Crest commercial or something.
Yeah. Oh no, there's absolutely guys who start off stumbling as anyone else and can eventually become top of their game really good.
Absolutely.
But then there are other acts out there who I have seen over the years myself. I was in the stand-up world for a while, and their early days, they're starting out where everyone else is at their midpoint. There's just something special about them, and they're just one small step away from being great.
There's a little something extra there, and I know about, the 10,000 hours rule, and but I believe Seinfeld started out really pretty good out the gate, and then he put in his 10,000 hours.
Oh yeah,
because I used to watch Jerry come to the Comedy Store, do a set. I did Jerry at the door, or the doormat, and I actually thought to myself, I do people and they become big stars, and it's because there's something to latch onto. Sure. I didn't think it was me doing it, but I realized that if you've got something that a mimic can latch onto, you've got a brand.
Oh yeah.
So, but Jerry would come to the Comedy Store, do a set, and then he'd be down to the Improv.
Right.
And I'd go like, where's Seinfeld going? He's going down to the Improv, do a set. Oh, didn't you just do it now? It's like I couldn't get that. If you do it like, if he would do 3-4 sets a night, then he'd ping pong up to the LA Cabaret, which isn't there anymore. And I'm sitting there happy with my one set. And I think that's why who Seinfeld is, and I ended up in voiceover. I was lazy. I was a lazy fuck, and I didn't know, that. And he would record every set, and then he'd listen to every set, and see where the brilliance was, and keep that part, and the stuff that wasn't working. So he'd just keep. I mean, to me, he's the master craftsman of all stand-up comedians.
He is
amazing.
No, certainly his dedication to the craft is unparalleled.
Unbelievable.
Remember that documentary they made about him, Comedian, a couple years ago? Yeah, that was. I mean, even that. This is post Seinfeld when he.
He had all this. He doesn't need to do anything, and he still.
He doesn't have to. He could live on an island and be happy, but still, just like he was a 20-year-old.
So if anybody wants the
a 20-year-old that flies at a private jet to go do gigs.
I just meant the hustle aspect of that age.
I know. Kevin always likes to point that out, though. It's like everyone talks about, like, oh, he's hustling again after all his fame, and it's like, yeah, but he's taking a private jet everywhere.
Sure. But he doesn't have to.
I was just doing that for. I was just. Doing that for.
In the documentary, he drives in a shitty old car.
Yeah.
He's driving around in a shitty old car.
Yeah, that's right.
Have you ever flown in a private jet?
I have.
Yeah, I've done it twice.
Yeah.
They're small. Yeah. I actually don't care for it. I know I'm going to sound like some kind of jerky snob saying this, but I don't care for the experience. Okay. It's too small. You're flying too high.
Yeah.
And I would just prefer to fly commercial. I just feel safer, and that's not by much.
Do you hear that, Qantas Air?
That's right.
You got a new customer.
That's right, Qantas. You've never had
That's not uncommon, though. My family, like my sisters and my mom, don't
they
like
fly
little
private.
planes. Little planes scare them. Like whenever they have to, they go from Pittsburgh to New York, and they're in the little plane.
Jumpers.
Yeah, they terrifies them. They'd rather be they feel safer in a larger one.
Yeah. I flew once in a.
I'm too busy being irritated by the airport.
And with Howie Mandel, and there's no bathroom. There's a seat that you take the seat off, draw a curtain around yourself, and do your business.
Yep.
With everybody on the other side of the curtain.
Everybody clearly listening to every little noise.
Never mind listening. There are other senses involved. And I remember I'd done the gig. We were in I think Seattle, and flying home, and I held it the entire flight because I just went, I'm not doing that in this tiny little space that's about the size of a microbus with Howie Mandel 3 feet away from me.
I can't do it.
It's not going to happen.
No.
He'll never work with me again.
No.
He'll never get over the amount of bacteria in the air.
That's true.
Think about it.
Has he always been?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I've known him. I went to high school with him without meeting him.
Oh.
Yes. He went to George Vanier Secondary School for about 6 months. He was kind of on the high school tour of North Toronto. He did 4 different high schools through his career, and he got thrown out of every one for a prank. Huh. Something he did because he just needed to do something bizarre to keep himself interested. Like he does things to entertain himself.
Right.
So at my school, he called in contractors to do an addition onto the school. And he was talking to them like he was in charge, and the principal caught him, and he was gone.
Wow.
And so I didn't get a chance to meet, but I met him in comedy. I've known him a long time, and he has always been that germphobic. Wow. But before Purell came along, he just was always running to the bathroom to wash his hands. He would shake hands in those days, but right to the bathroom to wash the hands. Yeah.
Wow, that's.
I'm minorly germphobic, but I'm not on the level of Howie.
Right. No, I'm germ aware. I don't know that I'm germophobic.
I'm not. It's not that I'm really afraid of getting sick. I'm afraid of losing money. Oh. Because if I get sick, I miss auditions. You know, it's just. You know, it's pragmatic.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Because my whole thing is this. It's all here. You know, an accountant gets a cold. He sits there at his desk. This feels like shit. And, you know.
Yeah.
I get a cold and I can't work.
No.
You know, I go in and I'm the Lexus GS. Once driven, there's no going back. You know, it just sounds like crap.
Yeah.
So.
You know what? May I recommend? Try that. Try it.
Yeah, they'll say he's a trooper.
Give him options.
He may sound like crap, but boy, he's a trooper selling those cars.
You know they just want options.
That's right.
Okay, so you're now at this point in the story, you're a full-on stand-up.
Yeah.
You are. I know you were in Toronto for a while. Then you were in New York doing it for a while.
No, I never did go to New York.
Never.
In fact, it's my greatest regret in the world. I always feel like if I'd have just done 2 years, 3 possibly, in New York, gone down to the Improv, which was my original plan, it might have given me a bit more of an edginess, because I think my act was a little too family friendly. It wasn't cutting edge. And I think it would have sharpened, you know, the improv skills, the comeback skills, that sort of thing. So no, I did a couple of weekends. I went down and did open mic at the Improv, but I went straight to Los Angeles at Howie's behest. He called me up he'd moved here in '79. He said, Mo, listen, you gotta come down here to LA. What? No, what? Okay, what? So I came down and you know, put a deposit down on a Valley Garden apartment and moved down.
Yeah.
So started working spots at the store. I was a snowback. I have no idea how I earned a living the first 3 years here. I was like, you know, I came in. I got a banking Social Security number. I was an illegal. I was an illegal the first 3 years I was here, and it wasn't until I started working. I did my first cartoon that the cartoon company Deke Enterprises sponsored me for work permits. Yeah. So I mean, I would get paid in cash. I would go up to Canada. It's amazing. Like your stock goes way up. If you even attempt to come to the United States, all of a sudden your price goes up on the comedy club circuit in Canada. Oh, he's in the States. He must be good. My price doubled. So I was able to, you know, make a living there.
So 25 a night instead of 10.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, down here I'm making 10, you know, weeknights at the Comedy Store. But up there I'm, you know, 1983 money, I'm making like, you know, $1,500 a week, and that's pretty good.
That's really good. I mean, Canadian still money, but
still Canadian money.
Yeah. So what? That's like $60, if I think American. I still don't understand how the exchange rate works.
It's all arbitrary.
Yeah. Okay. So you get yourself an agent.
I did. I was very, very lucky. It's down here a little bit, and a lady named Mary Downey, who's talent coordinator for a show called An Evening at the Improv, spots me, puts me on Evening at the Improv. There's a William Morris agent named Aaron Cohen, who's one of her dear friends in the audience. He just loves me and believes in me, and he comes up to me after. He said, you know, I want to rep you. I've got to make you a back pocket client because I can't sign anybody right on the dot. He had just been made an agent, but he believed in me so much and got me on the Merv Griffin show and you know, hooked me up with some stand-up stuff. And he was one of the very first victims of this new disease called AIDS. And so I lost Aaron. Yeah, sorry.
No, by all means.
Yeah, but when you got somebody like that who just really, yeah. So anyway, to talk about Aaron.
No, take your time. In fact, take a minute. Do we have anything on the coming in from the?
I sent you a.
You sent me a thing.
I sent you a thing.
Okay, I'm going to read the thing.
It's a T5 though.
Okay. All right. Well, I have 2 of those, which we could get to. We'll get to those in a minute.
I'm okay now.
Oh, no, it's fine.
We can. So anyway, again, such luck to have somebody so in your corner.
Absolutely.
It's really sort of what it takes. And anyway, I'm going along. I'm doing that. I'm starting to get work. Then I get to sort of hitch my wagon to Rodney Dangerfield.
Ah.
You know, Jim had been opening for Rodney, Carey, and they were really tight. But there was one gig that Jim could not make. He'd already been booked on a TV special in Canada, so Rodney books me. Jim does the recommend, and I go and open for him in like a 3,000 seat theater in the Round Theater in San Francisco.
Hello.
And really did well. So when things started heating up for Jim, about a year later, Rodney calls me back in, and I tour with him for a year and a half. And it was one of the happiest experiences of my life. He was so crazy, but so giving and so generous to young comedians. I remember there was one gig. It was in Latham, New York. We pulled up, and and he looks on the marquee, and it's just his name. And he goes nuts, and he tells his road manager, he says, "You tell him to put his fucking name out there, okay, man? Let me tell you something, all right? It's tough enough. I know what it's like coming up and no billing. What the fuck is this, no billing? You get Maurice's name up there." I'm going, "Rodney, it's okay. It's fine." He goes, "No, man, they don't know when you're going to come out. It's going to be hard for you. It's hard enough for you already because they're there to see me, okay? But," and so I go to my dressing room, and I'm just getting ready, and the road manager comes and gets me and goes, "Take a look at this." And we open up the backstage door, and there's a guy on a cherry picker because that billboard is like from the Jetsons. It's on like the stilts. It just goes skinny little thing and up. And he's endangering his life to put M-A-U-R, and he puts my name up because Rodney won't go on until my name is up. Oh. And that's the kind of generosity he had. I mean, when I was doing Vegas with him, I had 50% billing. You fight for that kind of billing. Rodney just threw it up there. He was great.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I have had a lot of luck in my life, a lot of tremendous luck.
Sure.
And I fucked it all up.
Fucked it all up. How did you wind up here? Oh boy.
I tell you.
So what I want to know about is the transition, if you will, from the stand-up to the voice acting. Because
that was one of those things where, because of Aaron Cohen and the William Morris agency, he drags his friend Nina, who just opened the voiceover department at William Morris in 1984, drags her down to the Comedy Store to see his new client. And she comes up to me afterwards and says, "With all those impressions you do, you'd be a natural for cartoon voice acting." Now, I had been palling around with Frank Welker for already a year, because he and Howie were very tight. And Welker's talking me up around town, but nobody will see me, because it is a very close thing. Oh. So she sends me out for auditions for a year. And I don't book anything. And finally, I book an episode of the Wolfman Jack cartoon show. And then it's followed by a Southwest Airlines commercial, and then something called The Littles, where I got to meet the guys who played Hank Kimball and Ebb were regulars on the show. And then I go and read for Inspector Gadget. And I play the chief.
Chief Quimby.
Chief Quimby. And they said, "Don't do the guy from the first season. That was all Canadian. We're redoing it." And Don had done the entire 65 episodes of the first season in 1 week in Toronto. And he didn't want to do it that way. He wanted to do it in LA, one show a week. Great.
So I do that. I look at him. I think he looks like Walter Cronkite. So I just do this. "Here's your assignment, Gadget." And then shit blows up in my face, and I go, "Gadget!" And I'm going, "This is the easiest job in show business. This is unbelievable." I sit in a chair. They pay me, as much as I make doing stand-up comedy, except I don't have to memorize anything. I don't have to travel anywhere. This is amazing. And that was phenomenal, because I loved Get Smart growing up. I still think Get Smart's one of the best written and performed comedies on television.
Absolutely.
And to have Don sitting about as far away as me from you are, it's like having my own commentary track, you know, from a box set of DVDs, except those hadn't been invented yet. It's we'd do 2 pages of dialogue, we'd stop, and before we could start back up again, Don would go, "I remember when Rickles and he would smoke in the studio. Rickles and I were on the show, and we were chained to a wall. They left us there over lunch because we couldn't get a shot, a complete take without laughing. So we're chained to the wall. As they go for lunch, they come back an hour later, we're still laughing. So you know, that was like my experience with that. Plus I have Frank Welker giving me like a college course in how to do voiceover right next to me. He's showing me everything from mic technique to, I mean, shit you wouldn't think matters, like how to move your pages so that you don't have to have a scene break. There's a technique that Frank has where he just like twists the upper part of the page and then pulls this part and just silently moves it over. I got expert at doing that. If I'd have put that much work into my stand-up comedy career, God knows what I'd make of myself today. But I can turn a page so quietly, it's unbelievable. And you know, just watching how Frank physicalized characters, and I mean, it was fantastic. 22 episodes, and you know, it was awesome.
Well, it didn't end there. I mean, you've this is what I was quite taken with. In Inspector Gadget's biggest caper ever.
I took over the part of Inspector Gadget. No, I didn't. Did I?
According to the IMDb,
that's right. That was the one. That was the one.
Yes.
But biggest caper ever came in the early thousands.
Yeah, early thousands.
Don had retired.
Right.
And you know, he had in fact he'd broken his hip, and he just said, you know, I can't do the voice anymore. Get Mo to do it. Mo does me better than I do now. And so I stepped into that part, and also a Canadian series called Gadget and the Gadgetinis that played everywhere except the United States, Canada,
right,
all over Europe.
And you got a promotion. This time you were...
I was Lieutenant Gadget. Yes. So I mean, I felt like I was holding this beloved character in my hands, and you know, I really had to do this right by Dawn. You know, become a friend, and. So I got to do that character. You know?
Yeah. That was one of the big jobs that put you on the map as a
I don't know. I still don't know if I'm on the map. I just work.
Oh, how dare you!
It's just work, you know. It's jobs, man. It's just racking up jobs. I don't think of myself any kind of way other than, God, I'm lucky to be in this studio.
Yeah.
God, I'm lucky to be reading these words. I've been on some of the best written stuff. Can I just like make a plug for like the great writing that's out there?
Oh, I mean, absolutely.
Getting to be on The Critic, getting to be on a frequent guest star on The Simpsons, Futurama, Pinky and the Brain and Animaniacs. Tasmania had great writing. I mean, writing is so key. You know, writers do not get... No, they don't get any respect at all. You know, they make Rodney Dangerfield look like the Sultan of Brunei with the respect, but it's all in the writing. And,
yes, I couldn't agree with you more.
I can't believe the stuff I've gotten to be on. I think Tress MacNeille and I probably are neck and neck with just being on the best written animation in television. It's great.
Oh, it is. And all of the things you mentioned are all on my list of topics I want to talk with you about. But I have to tell you, for the almost 20 years now I've been out here, and people always say to me, hey, do you do voiceovers? And I say, yeah, I mean, I try if I can get an appointment, if I can get an audition, if I book it. It's, you know, it happens once every couple of years. I'd love to do more of it. They go, oh, you should do more of it. And then I have to
you should do more of it.
Well, thank you. But I have to explain to people on the outside, I say, here's how the voiceover industry really works. There's about 50, 60 actors who do 90% of what you hear.
I think it's actually up higher than that.
You think
I think it's about 100.
It's about 100%?
Yeah. No, about 100 actors.
100 actors?
About 100
okay.
actors.
It's 100 actors doing 90% of the work, which leaves 10% to everyone else trying to get a foot in there.
But if it's something you decided you want to do, you could move into that. By solely devoting yourself to it.
Sure.
Because like the line in the Joe Walsh song, they say I'm lazy, but it takes all my time. That's exactly what voiceover is. I get a lot of people, Rob Paulson and I talk about this when we do our Pinky and the Brain appearances at the Comic-Cons. I get a lot of people coming up and saying, I want to do voiceovers. It looks so easy. Oh, I could do voiceover. Oh, I got fired from my job. I thought I'll do voiceovers. You know, it's something you got to devote yourself to. There's a whole technique to it. And I'm not saying what I do is so important or difficult or, oh, I'm such a master, but there is technique involved. It's acting, and you don't have to wait for the hair lighting and makeup, that's for sure, but you have to put all your performance in here. You know, whether it's subtle, whether it's broad, but it's strictly, and you know, the great thing about voiceover is you can be a guy who perspires a lot and work tremendously. I mean,
whenever I do book a voiceover gig, I always make it a point to not shave and maybe shower.
Possibly.
It's maybe. Catch me on a good day.
Yep.
Shorts
and
the
flip
point
flops
that
too.
Maurice brought up, though. Sorry, that because Kevin says this often too. It's like why it's one of those professions that everybody thinks that they can just do it. Like comedy's the same way. Like everybody thinks that they're like, oh, I'm funny. I
It's
can
always
be a
the
comedian.
funniest guy in the office.
Yeah,
The guy,
it's like
the water cooler guy thinks he could do it. Yeah.
And it's like, but no, there's a technique to it. Like I'm a sketch writer, and I'm like, there's a very strict formula to writing,
structure and craft, and all
and
of it,
people
yes.
don't understand that. They're like, I have a funny idea, and I'm like, okay, well that's a kernel of an idea.
Right.
And then, but we have to like put this in this structure. But yeah, I do enjoy that everyone thinks that they can like dabble in comedy.
Just dabble in voiceover.
Dabbling in something that just sucks your soul out.
Well, I do want to talk about the critic, but first I want to get
smell.
I want to get a T5 in here. A T5 is a rapid fire this or that question.
Oh, all right.
And these were written specifically for you.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry anybody went to the trouble. I'm
based
screw it
on
up.
you have a lot of fans, Mo. So all right, let's.
Okay, sorry. Whenever I dab, I have to do Rodney. It's
I understand. Do we have the T5 intro?
T5.
Great, roll it.
T5.
Right now they're seeing Dave Ketchner. T5. We have no monitors in the room, so you go. Yeah, we're back. All right, this tweet 5 comes from Craig Stephen Woods.
Oh yes.
On the Book of Faces.
Yes.
Here we go. There's no right or wrong answers.
Okay.
Well,
I'll find one.
I'll determine whether they are. Lexus or Texas?
Lexus.
Ooh. Orson or H.G. Wells?
Orson. H.G. Wells has never gotten me a residual check.
Disney or W.B.? Ooh. That's a Sophie's choice. How could you do this to him, Greg? I'll give you one, plead the fifth. I'll give you one.
Okay,
I'll give you one.
fifth, yeah.
There you go. Okay, this is a very good one. Peter Falk, in-laws or Falk, Great Race?
We'll call it the thing, Shell. We'll call it the thing. In-laws. Greatest comedy of all time.
Greatest comedy of all time. Clifton Webb or Cafeteria?
What?
I don't know what that means.
Clifton Webb.
Correct. All right, 4 for 4.
I guess he means Clifton's Cafeteria.
I guess so. Oh, yeah, Clifton Webb or Clifton Cafeteria. Yeah, he should have written it clear. Come on, Craig.
All right.
Well, thank you for that T5, Craig. Okay, let's talk about the critic. I mean, we're just going to have to jump around here. There's no easy way to do this.
I know. It's not a linear story.
Oh, boy,
it's a lot of walking into rooms with carpeting on the wall, black, carpeting, and just reading into a microphone. The magic happens after the animators take it over it.
Right.
Otherwise, you're alone. You're alone. It's a solitary thing. But the critic, wow, that was an amazing thing. Because
right,
Mike Reese and Al Jean were on The Simpsons and staff writers, and they wanted to take a shot at creating their own thing, their own show, and they came up with this idea of what's the life of a Gene Shalit, Gene Siskel-esque character that is downtrodden and put upon, and so they always had something in mind for Lovitz, and so we they knew they needed a utility voice guy, and they'd seen me actually at the Comedy Store. They both copped to when they were writing on the Tonight Show, coming out of the Comedy Store and catching my act. So they had me, and they had a bunch of impressionists in, but I lucked out and got the job, and. The fun part of that, though, was that there was this Australian movie star character, sort of a Mel Gibson, Crocodile Dundee crossover
Jeremy
guy.
Hawke.
Jeremy Hawke, who was the critic's best friend. Right. And every Australian actor in town read for it.
Naturally.
And I don't know how I got it. I don't know how I got it.
Because you're Canadian.
But I ended up beating out the Australians and getting to be not only utility voice guy, but the voice of Jeremy Hawke, who's the critic's best friend. Might never marry an actress. So,
I think that's how I feel when every pilot season I go out and I see guys who look kind of like me, but always just better looking, and I go to introduce myself, and they're all Australian. And I'm like, oh, do you do the accent in the room? And then they do a perfect American accent. And they go, oh no, I gotta do a pretty good American accent. I'm like, motherfuckers. I had enough problems competing with other American guys.
I know.
So I'm glad to hear you took a job away from them.
I'll tell you what you do. You shave just this part.
So that you just got the mutton chops, and you go out for like the young Wolverine.
And then you'll screw that Australian bastard, that Jackman.
Seriously, he's had it coming. My nickname is Lil Wolverine.
Yeah.
On some other podcast circles.
So the critic was, just one of those things where I just got to, like one episode, I think we recorded 27, I think, voices, and I think they got cut down to like 25 or 24. But I mean, Harry Shearer had the record. They made a big point of telling me that I beat Harry Shearer's record on The Simpsons. He apparently at one point had 26 characters.
Right.
And but they were all just street characters and.
No, I want to be very clear that our listeners and viewers understand this. In a 30-minute episodic, which has 7 minutes of commercials, so we're talking 23 and a half minutes.
Yeah.
You voiced 27 different characters.
Yeah. Some of them just had one word. I mean,
it doesn't fucking matter to me,
okay,
man.
all right.
That's 27 distinct voices coming out of one man.
Yes, and a belch.
And a belch.
And the
Coming
belch.
Eudora.
Yes.
Are you the belching Eudora Welty? I've always wondered that.
I've totally forgotten about Eudora Welty.
There's no credit there, and
Oh God! Of course I was the belching Eudora Welty.
Fantastic.
Yes,
of course
I
you
was.
are. You can't hide from this one anymore. This is on your.
I was the belching Jay when Jay beats Homer in the belch on the crossover episode. I had to step into
Stars
John's.
Burns. I just rewatched that like 2 days ago.
Yep.
Oh, so good. Yes, this is on your IMDb resume. One of your trademarks is being a stunt burper. And that is quite.
There were worse trademarks, I guess. There was a trademark that Bill Cosby has. He used to be the sweater wearer guy.
True.
No. So I'm the stunt burper. I was ever since I was a little kid. I don't know how I figured this out. Again, my need to be loved by making people laugh. I'd been able to do this effect, but I used to do it with puke. I used to take plastic puke from the novelty stores, and I'd fold it up, and I'd put it in my hands, and I'd go, teacher, I don't feel so good. I'd be, and the puke would hit the floor, and I'd get sent to the nurse's office, and I'd get to be out of class for a while, until they discovered it was plastic puke. I could only pull this stunt once a year. And then word got out in the staff room, and I could never do it again. But it's an effect. It was just something I was, again, messing around with vocal tensions.
Absolutely.
And raspy voice, like, and then do those two things together and employ a bit of the back of your throat and your sinuses, you can produce It's simple, Sam.
It seems so easy. I don't know why everyone.
I didn't say it was easy.
Yeah.
I said it was simple. Yes.
Very
Very
nice.
different things. There are no synonyms. Remember that.
Indeed.
Yes. No. It hurts. It actually scratches.
I was going to say no. Please don't do that. And
yeah.
we're going to talk about Yosemite Sam, and I refuse to let you do any of Yosemite Sam. I mean that because I know from reading about Mel Blanc doing Yosemite Sam.
Yeah.
He would schedule, they were nice to him, they would schedule Yosemite Sam as the last character on a Friday.
Friday, so he had the weekend.
Because he had the weekend, he needed the weekend.
And I carried that through.
Yeah.
I carried that forth with all my Yosemite Sam work for Warner Brothers from the time in which I got 1985 when I started doing the character, all the way up till last year. And I always said Fridays, please take it easy on me. And on the show Wabbit, and it's not a knock on anybody there, they couldn't schedule it on Fridays. So we recorded on Tuesdays. And I did the character for the first season, and it was killing me. And I was showing up to, my sessions for the nice people who let me sell their cars for them, and let me drive around in one of their cars. And I was showing up like this, which is not what the voice is.
No.
and I'd sometimes have to take 2 or 3 days off. So last year I actually had to walk away from the character for Wabbit. I don't know if Warner Brothers will ever ask me to do it again. Fred Tatasciore took it over for season 2 of Wabbit, but it is a killer. And they wouldn't come off the Tuesdays, they wouldn't record me on Fridays, and so I said, I gotta save my voice, guys.
No, absolutely.
And I love Yosemite Sam. He's a hilarious character. I mean, he's just bad shit just keeps happening to him. He's got bad intentions, so he deserves everything. But all loves Yosemite Sam, and all misses him. What are you gonna do?
Oh my God! What are you gonna do? Well, thank you for that. I do not want you. Not on my behalf, sir. All right.
Is everybody okay in the sound booth with that?
Yeah. Right.
We peaked.
Yeah, you peaked.
Yeah.
Is the control board bleeding right now? Good.
We're getting you a fresh water. Seems like.
Why? Thank you.
Seems like the time for a fresh water.
Oh yes.
Thank you, Mike Dooman.
Mike.
You're doing God's work over there.
My man, Mike. Hello, Mike Dooman. But I hates rabbits.
There you go, Mike. You got your new voicemail.
There you go.
So, okay, I know we're jumping around. We must now. God, there's no easy way to get in this, so we're just gonna spill it out. I want to talk about Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain, man. I'm dying to talk about it.
Okay.
So, Animaniacs happens first.
Animaniacs happens first, of which there are these characters named Pinky and the Brain. Because Animaniacs is just a word for, here's this anthology show with all these new animated characters that exist in the universe outside of Tiny Toons, which was Steven's, sorry, I did that thing where we all call him by his first name like we have his home phone number.
Yeah, sure.
But, that's the way it is on...
Senor Spielbergo.
What's that?
Yes, Senor Spielbergo.
Yeah, Senor Spielbergo. Monsieur Spielberg. I have met the man twice, so I mean, I could conceivably get away with it. But anyway, he wanted, you know who I'm talking about. He, capital H, wanted to top himself with Tiny Toons. Tiny Toons, he had done a universe where everybody is the nephew, the kid brother, the whatever.
You were Dizzy Devil.
Dizzy Devil. We're in the family somewhere, a distant, relative.
Dizzy Devil hurt almost as much as Yosemite fucking Sam. Jesus Christ, on a bike.
So whole new universe.
Yeah.
So these characters. It's an anthology show. In fact, even Yakko, Wacko, and Dot, they are not the Animaniacs. They are the Warner Brothers and the Warner sister. Animaniacs is everything, the whole anthology. And there's this one little quiet show about 2 lab mice trying to take over the world. And I look at this character. Now, I have a tendency towards obnoxiousness, bursting through with the voices at the inappropriate times, as you may have learned. And one of the things I always did was I did Orson Welles.
Right.
I had been given this tape of Orson, losing his shit at a couple of, foppish British directors for Finder's Frozen Foods in England. And I learned that thing. I listened to it in my car on the way to jobs, stuck in traffic. I memorized every nuance of that thing. And whenever there was a lull, as they were like talking in the studio or whatever, or if there was like, Mo, can we get a mic check? And I did it here today. I just would go, we know a remote farm in Lincolnshire. Even the stomach got bigger. Watch. See, I gain weight as I do Orson Welles. Where Mrs. Buckley lives, every July, peas grow there. You really mean that? I'd start about a half a second late.
Don't you think you really want to say July over the snow? Isn't that the fun of it?
If you could make it almost when that shot disappears, I think it'd make much...
I think it's so nice that you see the snow-covered field and say every July peas grows there. Get me a jury and show me how you can say in July and I'll go down on you.
So I would do this.
Oh my God.
And so I look at the brain. They give me the model sheet. I'm the first audition on the first day of auditions, and I have the very first slot. I've never been so punctual in my life. I actually got there like a half an hour early, and I get in there, I look at the brain, it's the first thing they give me, and I go, oh, they've drawn me Orson Welles. They're giving me my own show, because I have an ego the size of Toronto. And And so I just think, well, they want Orson Welles here. So I read the thing. I had no other ideas for the brain other than Orson Welles.
Yeah.
And somehow or another, they're back there and they're going, holy shit, we never thought of that.
Right.
They based it on a guy named Tom Minton. And Tom, who's become a friend, but I did not know him yet. Tom is a dizzy talk like this. He's a very fast talking guy, and he's very, very everything you see. But he's a brilliant guy. He's very, very real. But he talks like this in a flat monotone, very, very quickly, and So, and if I'd met Tom, I would have done Tom, and I would have lost the job, and they would have gone the rest of the day looking for the brain. But they cast me right on the spot. Andrea Romano will tell that every class she teaches, every seminar she does, every panel she's on. First guy cast in Animaniacs off the first audition.
Amazing.
So then they spent the next 2 days looking for Pinky, and that was Rob Paulson. But at the end of day one, it was almost John Astin.
Oh.
John Astin had done a character on Tasmania named Bull Gator, who so broke the mold. He was a cheerful villain. And it was, come on, Axel, we're going to go kill that Tasmanian devil. Let's go do it. Oh, he's just blown me up. Well, you're a pip, Axel. And everything was just, so upbeat. The upbeat villain. I just thought it was a brilliant portrayal. I've always felt Tasmania was like the one show I was on. That and a show called Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys. 2 shows that I was on that did not get their due. They just...
In my notes.
It's in your notes?
Captain Simeon and the Space Monkeys. It's
Great
1986.
Show. Brilliant.
Listen to this cast. Michael Dorn, Malcolm McDowell, Dom Herrera, David Warner. It's a show about a NASA space monkey who gets shot into outer space and is found by an alien culture who believes that he is Earth's dominant race.
Exactly. And they all evolve and they talk to each other. It's a brilliant show. 1996, created by Gordon Bressak, who was an Emmy Award-winning Pinky and the Brain writer, and he's still with us, of course. I love that show.
Yep.
We had DC Fontana from Star Trek writing scripts. We had some brilliant science fiction on the show. We had David Carradine on the show, Malcolm McDowell, as you said.
Yeah.
We had some real top genre people on the show, and writing the show. But that and Tasmania, I thought had this beautiful kind of arch wink at the camera kind of thing. I mean, who else but Art Vitello would think that Taz's father would sound like Bing Crosby? Come on, son, we're going to have a little glass of OJ. Come, blah, 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 yakety schmackety, let's go. So, and then we'd introduce a brother character for him later on who sounds just like Bob Hope. And I do the whole episode as Bob Hope and Bing Crosby, going back and forth. And I brought a golf club into the studio with me just to help me with the timing. I was the world's only prop voiceover actor.
Right.
Like I needed it, Yeah. Anyway, that show was tremendous fun, and so
there was a really good Tasmania video game for Sega Genesis. I remember it was a little challenging, but it was super fun.
Oh, am I on that?
If you have
Probably,
to be.
yeah.
Is the dad on there?
Definitely. But I just
beautiful.
remember that, like Sega Genesis had a really fun Tasmania game.
That was not me in the commercials, by the way. He said it much faster. Still trying to get that now.
With no help, I'm sure.
I know.
Okay, so the first actor cast in Pinky and the Brain, and
that's why I brought up Tasmania.
Yes.
So, yes, the next day Rob Paulson reads
and I couldn't help but notice in my research the Orson Welles outtakes actually received its own entire segment on Animaniacs.
Yes.
I mean, in its entirety.
In its entirety.
Save for 2 word flippages because of.
You can't say I'll go down on you.
You cannot say I'll go down on you. I believe it was I'll make you cheese.
I'll make cheese for you.
I'll make cheese for you.
And this is a lot of tripe, that, instead of this is a lot of shit,
right.
that. So, yes, we stuck pretty much to the whole thing, and it was one of those, the joke was they wrote it to shut me up. They thought, if we just let him do it on camera, maybe he'll stop. Maybe it'll be like a cathartic experience for him. No, it just made it worse.
No, it's feeding the beast,
yeah, of course, yes.
No, I am happy to report anyone who wants to hear and watch that clip, that Animaniacs clip of Pinky and the Brain, where the brain is doing the Orson Welles outtakes and Pinky is in the booth
as the director, with our real life engineer Harry Andronis.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yep. Playing himself.
That is available for free on YouTube. I wish it weren't free.
And then there's a version of it on YouTube where they've actually put Orson's original outtake
Oh my God.
against the animation.
Well,
And it's really kind of amazing how well it all fits. It's just like, I guess I really got that thing down. I mean, imagine my life is so boring that all I've got to do is listen in my car to.
I could not disagree
You
more.
didn't
This
say
is-
it, he said it. Your friend. Every July? No, you don't really mean every July. That's bad copy. It's in July. Of course it's every July. Too much directing around here. You know. It's a sad life.
No, I won't hear of it.
All right.
It's the ear. It's the ear. And that is the gift, is the ear and the memorization.
Ear, lips, tongue,
The whole thing.
larynx.
So Pinky and the Brain started out on Animaniacs.
Yes.
It was so popular, and I know I had much Pinky and the Brain gear
Oh, wow.
growing up. It was so popular that the head honchos at the WB went, we got a hit on our hands. Its own show, prime time.
These guys need their own show. We didn't know that. We knew that it was special. It's one of those things where you feel like someone just kissed with that extra little drop of honey or whatever. We did the first episode and we went, gosh, those guys were fun. I hope we get to do them again, because they were trying everything. You know, this was when they were still cycling through all the ideas, some of which went by the wayside, like Katie Kaboom, which I thought was a terrific little segment about a teenager with, borderline personality disorder.
Oh.
But, an explosive teenager who literally explodes at the end of every episode. But she only made like 3 or 4 appearances, and that was the end of Katie Kaboom. So we were just hoping that they would come back. And yeah, they got their own show, man. It was unbelievable. We adulted up the storylines a little bit for the prime, but we went up against 60 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, what shot did we have? But for 22 episodes in prime time, we had a richer animated look. They put a little more money into the animation. We had adult storylines, and Brain even said, "Damn," Wow. Yeah. So that was quite something.
I don't give a damn.
Now they say fuck, and they bleep it out for the for the broadcast. But you buy the DVD and you get the fuck.
You get the actor saying
right,
fuck.
exactly.
Yeah. What could be more fun than
What the fuck could be more fun than that?
voicing a cartoon character that gets to curse?
Who says fuck?
Yeah, I can't tell you how much I enjoyed both the Animaniacs stuff and then the primetime series of Pinky and the Brain, and what it meant to me and my brother when we were growing up.
I love your brother.
And me too.
I've met your brother.
Hey, Max, you hear that? Hope
Yeah,
you're
Max.
watching.
Hey, Max. Good to see you, man. tweet in or text in and tell me to settle down.
Please.
'Cause I need to.
Please do, Max.
Yeah.
Okay, now I want to talk about another project that is certainly near and dear to the hearts of me and Jamie over there. A little, oh boy, talk about the different iterations of this. You got the real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Slimer and the real Ghostbusters. Extreme Ghostbusters.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm missing any, but we're talking about a series of cartoons that stretched from 1986 to 1997, 187 episodes total.
Yeah.
And you played what could, I lost count. I mean, somewhere in the hundreds of characters over this span, but of course, most famously, Egon Spengler.
Dr. Egon Spengler. I collect spores, mold, and fungus. It was so, it was the day we did those auditions, because I always go back to the auditions, because that's the day it's biggest and newest, and, will I get this? I remember that, the waiting room was packed. Everybody wanted to be part of this show. The movie was a hit. And they kept coming out. Michael Gross, God rest his soul, kept coming and going, now remember, don't do the people from the movie, okay? We don't want any impressions, okay? Ernie Hudson's standing right there. How's he not supposed to do an impression of himself? And it's the only 2 black guys there are Ernie Hudson and Arsenio Hall. And Arsenio and I know each other from stand-up. He looks at me and goes, and I went, so.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not going to tell you what he said, audio-only listeners. Watch the damn video.
Yeah. No,
I'm glad the YouTube page
he
is
mouthed
back.
the words, what the fuck am I doing here? And I just shrugged and went, I don't know, go read. It's always worth a shot.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Arsenio ended up with the job. I think
That is insane.
I'm praying that Ernie had some other commitment. I can't see them saying, you're not you enough to play you.
Oh, it's happened.
He must have gotten a movie or something.
I've not
like
booked
that.
roles that
Nothing
send in
against
signs
Arsenio. 'cause
looking
he
for
did
Samm
original.
Levine type, for the record.
Right, of course. yeah, it's like, you know, get me Samm Levine, get me.
Right.
Well, no. Well, I'm not going to tell you what happens. You're still young.
It's not even get me a more affordable Samm Levine. There is no more affordable Samm Levine.
Scale. It's scale. It doesn't go any lower.
What do you?
Well, let's go to Canada and work for Canadian scale.
I don't know. So I don't know what happened to Ernie Hudson there.
Well, I don't know, but I've actually met Ernie. One of my favorite Twitter moments was meeting Ernie in, I think it was Portland, at a Comic-Con, at Rose City Comic-Con, taking a picture, and then I got the hashtag when Ghostbusters worlds collide. You know, and Ernie's always been very nice to me, and so, but getting to play Egon, I had such reverence for that character, because he was the oddball, and yet he had the affection of the hippest character, Venkman.
Right.
And I just thought, well, that's really cool. I like that.
But when you go into audition,
I go in there and I look at him, and if I'd have seen the blonde hair, if they'd have shown me a model sheet that was colored in, I might have tried something else, because he looked very like Nordic. You know, he looked like Swedish Spengler. I don't know. And clearly he was a Jew. Yeah. You know, Harold played him, and you know, it's very much a Jew. There's a Jewish sensibility to Jewish nerd sensibility to Egon, and I love the character. And I just got in there and I went, I got nothing except Harold. So I did Harold. And I read the spores, mold, fungus line, and this could be extraordinarily dangerous for Slimer. And Harold had this sort of glottal, pullback kind of, you know, it's very strange voice. I didn't even know if I could produce it, but I got in there and it was close. I wouldn't say it was one of those close your eyes and you'll think it's him, but it was pretty close to his sensibility and his sound. And I left there and I was sure I was in trouble. And then I got a call back and I said, I'm sorry, I know I did an impression. Did you want me to do something? He said, no, you get to do an impression. You're the only one. Nobody else gets to do an impression. So I ended up with the job and, you know, got to play him 187 times. So I just hope, I never got to meet Harold. I've met Bill for 10 seconds. I've met Dan Aykroyd at Sam Kinnison's funeral, and met Ernie, but Harold I never got to meet. And sort of one of those. I've never met Mel Blanc, Orson Welles, or Harold Ramis.
And yet your personal connections to their
work,
their characters,
so strange,
is so close. And
I've always wanted to, you know, just say to them, thanks for your work and thanks for letting me, you know, climb up on your shoulders and yet still dip my head down below yours, because you're the giants, not me, you know. But it was, but Harold was wonderful and amazing, and his writing, you know, changed. I think it changed the comedy genre in the 80s and 90s, the way he wrote.
Could not agree with you more.
Yeah,
And I know Jamie feels the exact same way.
Yeah. So
yes, Harold is near and dear to our hearts.
And his daughter his daughter and I follow each other on Twitter, and she said some nice things about me, which is
lovely.
Because I always hoped she liked my tribute to her dad.
Oh yeah. No, we all. I mean, when I was watching all those Ghostbusters shows growing up, it was not until I think I became a big Pinky and the Brain fan, and then it was pointed out to me that the Brain is the same actor who does Egon in all the Ghostbusters, and I went, no, that can't be right.
There was a little while there where I was playing like four scientific geniuses. I was also on a show called Space Goose, where I played a character named Ethno, who sounded like James Mason, but he was the scientist of the group, the bright one. And I was also doing Splitsy and Dr. Splitz on Space Monkeys, who was also he was done as John Houseman, but he was the scientist, he was the genius. And then of course he had this moment where he split into Splitsy, who was like the mechanic, you know. And so I was like going, wow, if only I'd like applied myself in school, I might actually like be a real scientist. You know,
playing one is way more fun.
It probably is, but I mean, I'm a friggin' high school dropout. Why am I getting all these smart characters? It was really weird. You know.
Well, there's a big difference between book learning.
That's right, and then that life learning.
Whatever that other thing is.
That life learning thing.
Yeah. I want to give you another. We'll give you another T5. It's not too close to the last one.
Oh no. Okay.
All right, roll the thing.
T5.
T5. Are we rolling it? Done. Oh, it's done. See, we don't have monitors in here.
High technology.
This is a very highly produced show.
That's right.
Okay, tweet 5 for you, Maurice. Toucan or Yosemite, Sam? Voice of Toucan.
Follow your nose. It always knows to residual checks.
There's your answer, folks. Voice panels or reading a book?
Oh, voice panel.
Yeah, that's a dumb one. Hockey or curling? Come on, Canada.
Or curling.
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 Okay. That is, he went the other way with it, and he happens to be correct. Shatner or Wells?
I'd have to say Orson Welles.
Again, correct.
I'll leave Shatner for Kevin.
Yeah, please. Yeah. And this one, this is the reason I asked this T5. Elmira or Larry?
Larry.
Larry, that is also correct. That's 5 for 5 on that.
Nothing
one.
against Cree, but the pinky in the brain of Larry.
Right.
Actually, was us saying we're afraid of what will happen if you mess with this formula, and then we got Pinky Elmira in the brain. Can I just, by the way, I always give it up to Kev. He's not here, but he does the best Shatner in the business.
No question.
And I know I'm messing around with the voice here, but you know, Kevin and I actually did a Shat off on YouTube. It was when it was just announced that see what I'm doing with my thumb there?
Oh,
Isn't that weird?
nice.
There's something you didn't know. Maurice LaMarche double jointed in the thumb of his left hand. Can't do it with the right. Kevin came to watch a table reading of Futurama, and I had done this thing called International Talk Like William Shatner Day, in which I give props to Kevin and Kevin Michael Richardson as the two guys that do Shatner better than me. But I thought it would be a good idea, since we had an International Talk Like a Pirate Day. Anybody can talk like a pirate. Let's do International Talk Like William Shatner Day on his birthday, because that's tough. That takes some work.
Yeah.
But I put out an instructional video. So it was the year anniversary of that, and it had just been announced that Shatner was going to do Shit My Dad Says.
Oh, right.
And so we just read the Shit My Dad Says tweets as dueling Shatners. And Kev, I just want to say that was some of the most fun I've ever had in front of a camera. Kevin and I doing Shatner. It was unbelievable, and just saying messed up shit.
Oh,
that
yeah.
Some guy's dad says. So,
well, look, there is no question that we're going to have you back when Kevin is back in the host chair, so that the two of you can just not be yourselves for 90 minutes.
Of course, yes.
That's all I think.
Voted most likely to be someone else. Both of us in our high school
exactly
yearbook.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of table reads, 114 table reads for Futurama.
Yeah.
You played what the internet has at 200 plus additional characters. Of course, your well-known characters: Morbo, Croker, Calculon, and my personal favorite, Orson Welles' head in a jar.
Because we haven't heard enough from Orson Welles in this podcast.
Listen, I will never, ever get tired of hearing you
I'd
do
love
Orson
a good
Welles.
cheese log. Yes. That's actually the episode that I won an Emmy for, believe it or not. It's the Orson Welles head in a jar and Lur, ruler of the planet Omicron Persei 8, who's going through a midlife crisis in that episode. It's one of my favorites.
That's such a great episode.
It was a great,
I
great
got to have
writing.
my pal Phil LaMarche sit at this table with me a while ago, and we talked about Futurama. And boy, you talk about good writing. Oh man, was that a sharp shot?
Oh no, absolutely. The writing won me the Emmy. I didn't win me the Emmy. The writing was so brilliant in that episode.
Well, the writing also won an Emmy, I'm sure, at some point.
Yes,
and then,
absolutely.
But then they gave you the Emmy for Best Voice Actor.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Thank you.
If you knew how many times Max and I, who says hello, by the way.
Hi, Max.
Have shared the back and forth of full of country goodness and green penis.
Country goodness and green penis. I actually got Mike Reese to sign a cell of Orson
There at the table with the pile of peas, and Mike Reese writes, "To Maurice, who I slipped my green penis to." That's one of my most prized possessions.
God bless.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
You have no idea how good a Mike Reese I do, by the way, but that's Mike Reese. If you knew him, that'd be exact. That's an old Howie Mandel line, but it's true.
Oh.
Yeah, Mike is brilliant.
Oh, he is. He is brilliant. Oh, man. Okay. Let's, here's just out of left field. Alec Baldwin, Team America.
Not Alec Baldwin.
Not Alec Baldwin.
Alec Baldwin. There are distinctions to be made here. You know, I saw Alec on a talk show. I forget which show he was on, but he actually took credit for being Alec Baldwin in Team America.
Like he was like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
That was me.
People come up to me and say, "Oh, yeah, Alec Baldwin, Team America." And I go, "Yeah, sure, yeah." And it's like, no, I was Alec Baldwin in Team America. Nobody's coming up to me because. Oh, my hair is all. Oh, anyway. Hey, again, I don't know how I landed up with that, but.
But did you have any idea what you were getting into? With those guys?
None whatsoever.
Okay.
None whatsoever. It was just that my agent called, said, learn Alec Baldwin's voice. He had done a movie trailer for God, what was it? Doesn't matter. He'd read a movie trailer. That's all I had to go on, and I read that voice, and I went in and read, and it's just like anything else. You think why would I end up with that? And they picked me anyway, and so the movie started out though. Alec Baldwin was actually a bigger part because he ends up becoming president of the United States, and then they thought that was just too outrageous. Nobody would believe that a personality that appeared on television and movies could ever end up as president of the United States.
Not.
It's too much of a reach that a celebrity would become president of the United States.
He's making fun of Ronald Reagan.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, he ends up becoming president of the United States in the original script. Then they just settled that he would be president of the Film Actors Guild.
Right.
Good going, fag. And so that, and this was at a time when there was a lot of there was a divide in the country. God, give us that divide. That divide was nothing compared to the divide of now. Let's go back to then. And so, they poked fun at liberal movie stars. They poked fun at the far right wing and the warmongering. They were equal opportunity offenders, Trey and Matt. And I was just kind of in the middle, just doing this, loving doing Alec Baldwin. And there was the original edit of it. He before he gets shot, he can't remember all the buzzwords, and he just goes, "Fuck!" and then he gets shot, and they cut the fuck out. But it was great. We worked on that thing. I was doing my scenes until 10 days before the film was to ship. That's how late we had, till 4 a.m. we were working on the film and making and then they finally had to ship out at 9 a.m. in FedEx, so it would be in theaters the following Friday. It was a Wednesday. Yeah, they were just constantly making it funnier and funnier and funnier, and pulling out stuff, killing their babies. But if it didn't work, it didn't work, and they took it out. Great experience. Those guys are geniuses.
They are geniuses. Yeah, I could not agree with you
more. I saw
more.
dedication there like I've never seen before from Trey and Matt. It was amazing.
They're putting in. They're not slacking on the job.
No. The 10,000 hours, they did that their first year.
First time. So speaking of my dear brother Max, he did want me to ask you something.
Yes.
And this is technically via the IMDb trivia about you. It says that you supplied many Python-esque character voices and performed hundreds of lines for the 1994 computer game Monty Python's Complete Waste of Time.
I did.
However, due to the Python's contractual arrangement, LaMarche could not receive a proper cast credit.
I could not, but they did give me a special thanks. The way that came about was Bob Ezrin has been a dear friend for, at that point had already been a dear friend for 10 years. We met in a restaurant. The Toronto Blue Jays were in the World Series, and we just pushed our tables there. It was me and Howie Mandel and all of our Canadian pals, and Ezrin's there, and he's a Toronto guy, and he produced Pink Floyd's The Wall, and he's just a legendary record producer, but he's just so approachable, and was like, "Oh, you guys are from Toronto." So we pushed our tables together, and we watched the game, and next night we were over at his house for Rosh Hashanah dinner, and it was just, we became fast friends. So he knew I loved all this stuff, and his company, Seventh Level, was doing, it's who you know, Sam. It's who you know.
Oh, I know.
And it was doing the Python thing, and he knew I did all these characters. So they couldn't get everything they needed out of everybody, so they had me come in and just do the little squeaks and pepper pot ladies and then so I must have done like 100 different cues of just that stuff,
Yeah.
And I just saw John Cleese and Eric Idle doing their two-person show. Oh, it's amazing, by the way. If you get a chance wherever you are to go see it, they give you a real show. It's not just two guys just sitting in a chair reminiscing. They go off to the side. There's a set there, a shop set where they do sketches. They do the bookstore sketch and a couple of others. And Eric walks around with a guitar. They're singing songs. And clips. And there's a Lost Python clip that they show. It's a brilliant show. So I got a chance to go backstage, and I didn't tell them that I was in the game with them. I just thanked them for their work. And Eric had done Pinky and the Brain, and he remembered having done Pinky and the Brain. So
that's fantastic.
we had a nice chat. Yeah, he played both of Pinky's parents. Yeah, that was something to watch. To get to work with Eric and watch him play mom and dad. It was great. Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, there you go, Max. I hope that answered your question. Greedy. So there is a quote that is apparently attributed to Sam Kinison in Rolling Stone.
Yes.
But was originally said to Kinison by
me
you
in my living room after a long night, and of course. Guess who put that in his IMDb page? We all add stuff to our IMDb pages anonymously. So that's, Kinison used it in his Rolling Stone magazine interview. But he had said we were up all night, pulling an all-nighter, writing comedy, and and he just he got very emotional. He said, what we do really make people happy, Maurice. I just want to know making people happy. And I said, Sam, we can make them laugh, but we can't make them happy. And he took that. At that time, I just hated that he took my best line and made it his. So I got on the IMDb. There's a big confession right now that I'm giving to you folks. And I said, attributed to Sam, but was originally said by LaMarche to Sam. After an all-nighter in LaMarche's living room. Oh, I'll leave that part out. Because I'm not a complete fucking idiot.
Well, I'm very glad I asked.
Yes.
Now,
You could have
snuck that in there. We wouldn't know.
Nah, rigorous honesty is my watchword.
Yeah. There's oh boy. Okay, I know the audience will kill me if I don't at least ask you about
drugs.
About drugs.
No, go ahead.
No, about the one of the current shows that you're doing, Transformers Rescue Bots.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 104 episodes at present, ongoing still.
It is a show. Let me tell you, it's a show that. It's great for the kids.
Yeah.
Little ones can watch it, but there's enough in there for the parents that the relationships are very, very true to life of siblings and parents, and there's some kind of again wink to the camera kind of stuff. And I play the patriarch of the show. I play Chief Charlie Burns, who for some reason has a Southern accent, even though the whole show takes place in Maine. But they liked the Southern accent. I don't know what I was doing when I read for it. So I love doing that show. And the thing that makes that show stand out for me is the relationship that the 8 cast members all have. We text each other every day. I'm on with Jason Marsden or Shannon McCain or Imari Williams, DC Douglas, Steve Bloom. We're all just texting at each other. Lacey Chabert. We're all, filling each other in. Lacey's just had a beautiful baby. We get the latest baby pictures. What do you think of this? Hey, what do you think of that? Hey, hello, I'm watching this. Hey, This Is Us is unbelievable. And we just stay in touch all the time. We're like a family. It's the only show I was ever on where we went out for dinner after every taping.
Oh, that's tremendous.
Yeah. So we love each other. We support each other, and it's just great. It's really great. And I'm tired of supporting those guys, though, because the Lexus money's running out. And no, I'm kidding, no. Not financially. Emotionally, we support each other.
Lovely.
Yes.
I have to ask you about, you had an encounter with the Dalai Lama.
I did.
Which is something I know a lot of people.
And I wish he'd stop calling. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Well, I mean, in order to tell you about the Dalai Lama encounter, I have to go back for something that I don't really talk about much in interviews and that type of thing. But it's a sad fact of my life that on March 9th, 1987, my father was murdered by his. Up to that point, obviously, they'd had a falling out, but he was a childhood best friend. And through much of their adult life, a man that I remembered as an uncle, and Dutch uncle, and that really sent me into a tailspin. And it is what happened to my stand-up career. Yeah. When I say I blew it, I really blew it by, kind of leaning headfirst into drugs and alcohol, to calm my, try and quiet the pain and the rage inside me. And it took me to some very dark places, and I was very lucky to get sober and come out of it, and stay sober with the help of a lot of sober friends who've been through similar things, and that's all I'll say on that regard. Mm-hmm. The one thing that, in the process of getting sober, a lot of my sober friends have taught me to, take an inventory and make amends to people and clean up my past and all that sort of thing. But the one thing I could never let go of, because resentment is the thing that makes people, relapse. We say relapse in Canada. I don't say relapse, you say relapse. I say sabotage. Anyway, the one thing that I had to do was I kept being told I have to get rid of this resentment I have toward the man who murdered my dad. And I could never do it. And I was going to parole hearings and seeing this guy, having to sit in the same room with him while he, tried to get out of prison. And I'm on my way to Vancouver to do, actually, the Gadgetinis. And I'm late for the flight, and I'm running through the airport. And I'm the last guy, and so as I go through, I see a limousine pull up to the bottom of the plane, and I look, and the door opens, and just a bare leg with a hush puppy and a rust-colored sock and a saffron robe comes out, and I go, who the heck could this be? I thought originally it might be like when Schwarzenegger was governor at the time, and I see it's the Dalai Lama. Holy crap! So we're on the plane, we're flying. I'm lucky they're flying me first class to do the job. And so I'm up in first class, and I'm the only person in all first class without a saffron robe on. It's all the Dalai Lama and his entourage. There's one other guy, his secretary is wearing a suit. And, and I literally have to prepare a statement for the parole board, and I've got my laptop open, and I can't think of anything to say. I've said it all, there are 2 other hearings. And so I think to myself, God, I gotta, I'm sitting here like 2 rows away from the greatest spiritual mind living in the world, and I remember all those people, those AA folks telling me, you gotta get rid of this resentment. And I go, well, if only I could talk to him. And then a little voice in my head says, well, what do people do when they want to talk to the Dalai Lama? They write him a letter. So I asked the flight attendant for some paper without telling her what I was going to do, because I was sure she was going to, if she knew, she would say, no, you can't do that. So I write, and I don't even write a salutation. I just go, forgive me for disturbing you, but I know that forgiveness is part of what you talk about, and it's what I need to write to you about today. And I tell him my story, and I tell him about all the people who've told me I must be rid of this resentment, otherwise I may drink or use again. And then, at the top I write, Your Holiness, comma. And at the end I write, sincerely, Maurice LaMarche, seat 4D. And I fold it up, and I get up, and I think to myself, what are you doing? How can you, what are you going to do? Walk by his thing and just kind of go, and have it float down in front of him? Right. You can't say, hello, Dolly. I mean, he's heard that joke before. So, I asked the monk across the aisle from me, how would I get a note to him? He goes, oh, well, just pass it to his secretary. Like, wow, okay. So I go to the secretary, and he's like, you ever go to there's this sushi bar in Studio City that used to have a guy they called the Sushi Nazi. Uh-huh. 5 times more severe. By the way, the Sushi Nazi is a really nice guy. I've come to become his friend. But he's like that. But 5 times more severe. Yep. And I said, I've written a note for His Holiness. What? I've written just a little note for His Holiness. I'll leave it with you. You decide if I should. I'm just going to. And I Woody Allen my way over to
you turn into Woody Allen in that moment.
Woody Allen my way over to the bathroom, because of course I got to make it look like I was getting up anyway. Just happened to have a note for the Dalai Lama and pass it over to the secretary. And I'm standing by the bathroom, and there's a bit of a line, and I'm waiting and I turn around, and it's the secretary Nazi, the Dalai Lama secretary. He goes, he will see you now.
I was like, you're kidding. He goes, no, no kidding. He will see you now. Now! So I go and, you know, His Holiness is sitting by the window, and there's this other monk that was sitting beside him. And then there were 2 chairs there in first class that they bought with nobody sitting in them, so nobody could sit across from the Dalai Lama and bother him, which I have now successfully done from row 4, seat D. And so that monk gets up, he goes across the aisle, and I sit down. And His Holiness looks at me like this. He's like over the glasses, you know. He does the, like, you young punk, you know. Think you can just get an audience with me, you know. But so I'm like this, and he's smiling, and so he starts, and he goes, "Your letter touched me very much." I said, "It did?" He goes, "Yes, I related to your letter." I said, "You did, Your Holiness?" He goes, "Oh, yes. When the Chinese secret police and the army officers came into my country, they tortured my friends. They killed them. I had been spirited away the night before, but I knew that they were killing my friends. I was very angry at Chinese army men." I said, I can imagine you would be." And he said, "And I knew if I was to be Dalai Lama, I had to be rid of this anger. What did I do? I thought of Chinese army man's life. And here is whole life of Chinese army man. Here is where he kills my friends. But here, he is infant, small child, teenager going on first date. Here is where he kills. But here, chance to be good person again. All rest of life." I said, "So are you saying then that you forgive the sin but not the sinner?" He goes, "By forgive, I do not mean forget. People get in trouble with this. To forgive is a different thing than forget. I can never forget what Chinese army men did to my friends, but to forgive, let me ask you, the man who killed your father, you have a special place for him in your mind, do you not? You have a prison cell for him, a torture chamber." I said, "Yes, I do." He said, "You do terrible things in him to him in there, do you not?" And I said, "Yes, I do." He goes, "You must let him out of the prison of your mind. You must open the door and let him walk out." And in that moment, I'm like, he says it, and I'm visualizing the killer sitting on a bench in a prison cell that takes up my entire field of vision in my mind's eye, and he just gets up and walks out. Walks out my ear, as it were. And I felt something do that. And I said, I think I know what you mean, Your Holiness. And I said, "Now, when you said that thing about, you know, him being a little kid, it's so funny. My little boy was in the back seat last week, and you know they'd just captured. This was the week they'd captured Saddam Hussein. By the way, I'll just take a break from the story." I said, and he said, "You know, Dad, it's kind of hard to picture Saddam Hussein as a little kid." And I said to him, "Why? Because of his big scraggly beard? Because you just found him underground?" And he said, "No, because he once just must have been a nice little kid just playing with his friends." And the Dalai Lama goes, "Ha ha 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 ha! Your son very wise, very smart son." And he took my hand. He's got the softest hands you've ever felt, and he enveloped. I've got little Trump hands anyway, so. And I won't deny that I also have, unlike our president-elect. And isn't it terrible? I just took that. I'm telling this really spiritual story, but I'm going after Trump's penis. Okay. So anyway, so His Holiness envelops my hand, and I'm not a big believer in like curly in photography or any of that stuff, but there was an energy and a warmth that I just felt go into me. And he said, "I'm going to pray for you now." And he put my hand up to his head, and he said a few words in Mongolian. And I mean, I think it was Mongolian. It could have been Italian. I have no idea. But I mean, and then he put my hand. I said, "I thank you, Your Holiness. I don't know what I can do. To thank you for this, I just promise you I'll pray for the success of your mission and for your health and your strength." And he goes, "Then that is enough." And I went back to my seat, and for somehow or another, that little exercise. Now I have to do that thing every morning because I wake up and somewhere, in the first 5 minutes of my day, I'm killing that man again. I have him strapped down to a table in that prison, that torture chamber. And I have to I still think of His Holiness in front of me telling me, let him walk out of the prison of your mind. And I let him up off the table and he walks out and I can carry on with my day. So that was my Dalai Lama encounter. That's the whole story. I've never told that story publicly. I'll tell it in the little gatherings of the people who don't drink anymore, which I won't name by name because it's anonymous.
Right.
But I've never told it on camera. So that was the.
I cannot tell you what it means to me personally to hear that story and for you to share it with us and our audience.
Thanks.
And that is such incredible advice for what I have to imagine would be for so many different people and different problems that they might have.
I've been told by many people when I tell this story, somebody always comes up to me and says, I've been struggling with this. I was molested. I had somebody also who was killed. My poor son is, he's struggling with something right now. He was best friends with Christina Grimmie, the voice star who was murdered last year, the day before the Pulse shootings. She was doing a concert in Orlando as well, and a deranged fan came up and shot her, blew her away, and then blew his own brains out. And they were closer than close. They were the best of friends. And, they say in those rooms, no matter how far down the scale you've gone, you'll see how your experience can benefit others. I've always wished that had never happened. No matter how much good I've done with telling people the Dalai Lama story or whatever. My son has somebody he can talk to who knows what it's like to lose a murdered loved one. And he and I have become so close because of that experience that, no experience is ever wasted. Nothing that happens to you is ever wasted. And I'm able to be there for my son in a way that nobody else can. And I'll just say it's my honor to be there for my kid in that way. And I'm happy to report he's not doing anything that I did to cope with the pain. He's talking about it.
Yeah.
I drank and drugged my anger and fear and sadness away, and what he does is he just gets with the people who were there that night and hangs out with them and talks about his feelings. And my hat's off to my kid. He's a better man than I am. 22 years old.
That's amazing, but don't deprive yourself of any credit. You forged that roadmap that I'm sure helped him tremendously.
Well, thanks so much.
I cannot imagine trying to go back to comedy after all of that. And we are.
I can. Hoyvin Flavin.
Well, we are definitely over time. I promised you that I'd have you out of here at 2, but there was no way I was going to interrupt any portion of that story.
I'm glad we stayed as long as we did.
Oh, me too. Mo, I from the bottom of my heart, I will never be able to thank you.
Oh, I've loved hanging with you again, Sam. We've had some wonderful talks in the past, but this one at this table tops them all.
It sure does. And hey, we recorded it too.
Hey,
so we can go back and revisit
isn't that wild?
Any old time.
Yes.
I will give you a pass from the Larry King game if you want one.
A pass from the
Larry King game. Remember we talked about it at the top of the show?
Okay. What was the Larry King?
So you're going to do a bad Larry King impression.
Okay.
And then you're going to give us that TMI moment from Larry about his first pterodactyl ride, something he does with food, proclivities, and then you throw to the phones, and if the city name that you throw to happens to be funny, it won't hurt. But again, I will give you a pass if you would, you know what?
I'm Larry King, and I have the Dalai Lama on my speed dial. All right, yes, and we go clubbing together. All right, Pacoima.
Well, finally.
You're on the line.
A shout out to Pacoima. They've been.
It has a hard P in it.
And a hard P.
Danny Simon taught me hard P's are funny words.
And a hard C. And what's better than a hard C?
Oh, yes.
On a cold and rainy Sunday.
Yeah, especially my age.
Oh boy. Well, this has been such a treat for me.
It has been for me as well.
Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you. Give me 30 seconds to wrap up, and then we'll get you out of here.
All right.
Guys, did I miss anything? Have I left any stone unturned? Yes, I've left many unturned, but what are we going to do? We only had just a few hours.
You did great, Sam.
Oh, thanks, Jamal. Okay, that is it for us here at the Chat Show. I have a few people to thank. Of course, Jason McIntyre up in the bird's nest. Yes, well done. Brad Register keeping him company today. Who do we have on the floor? Mike Duman, Samantha Ward on makeup. Of course, the beautiful as always, Corey Levin.
I can't help it.
Can I just add that Samantha Ward did not touch me today, so do not think these are her makeup skills.
He showed up looking this perfect.
I showed up sweaty, late, all of it. And Samantha, we got to go right on. So don't think that this is what Samantha does with your face. Okay, there you go.
She does this.
That's right.
She does this. Jamie Foxx, thank you as always. And to the gang here at the West Side Comedy Theater, thank you for letting us sit here and do our thing. And of course, to Chat Show himself, Kevin Pollak, we miss you. I hope the Garden State hasn't changed you like it has so many other young men of your generation. But we will be back next week. I will be here sitting again with my pal Kevin Rom from the Mad Men and the Lethal Weapons. But until then, and as always, fuck off.